Now, where did I put it? Here it is. Welcome to the Toolbox. Addendum. Tools for life and everything in between. Stuff you can use or toss. It's up to you. Hey everybody, welcome back to Tools for the Toolbox. I am Chance Burrows, as you know. This is a very interesting addendum. The first time I've had someone in-house in the studio. So the audio is a bit clunky as I'm not actually set up for live interviews and we had to move some stuff around. But I do hope you enjoy the conversation. Sachin has got some awesome stuff coming up. He's been doing some awesome stuff throughout the year. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the conversation. I hope you enjoy it. Hey everybody, welcome back to Tools for the Toolbox. I am Chance Burrows. As you know, I have another fantastic guest. As you can see, he's live in the house. He came up to Edmonton to run in Hinton. Right?
Yeah, I'm heading up to Hinton tomorrow morning.
Okay, tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
So, Sach,
yeah,
if anybody, first off, let's just shoot this right off the bat.
Yeah.
How do people find you? Because there's lots of cool shit going on.
Yeah, so So I'm on Instagram at Sach.and.motion. And for those who are new to the podcast or who haven't seen me before, probably a lot of people who don't know who I am, I'm trained to run across Canada in 2025. Mm-hmm. And through that journey, I'm finding a lot about myself and about a lot of people around me. And through that journey, we're raising a lot of money for veterans, first responders, for PTSD and occupational stress injuries. Mm-hmm. This year, I'm helping to raise $30,000 for Honor House, which will go towards building cabins in Ashcroft, BC, where high-risk or members can get the treatment that they need with their families, free of cost, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm heading up to Hinton tomorrow morning to do a 50-kilometer race in the mountains in the Rockies. It's a 3-day race. The first day is 10 kilometers, about 600 meters of elevation. The second day, which is Saturday, will be 15 kilometers, 900 meters of elevation. Mm-hmm. And Sunday is 25 kilometers, 200 meters of elevation. So for me, this is something all new because most of the running I've been doing has been fairly flat and not really in the mountains and things of that nature, some trails and whatnot. But yeah. This is a whole new thing for me. So I was like, yeah, let's go. Let's see what happens. I didn't. So it's funny. I called you and I didn't have a place to stay at night because I was going to go drive up to Hinton, hitch a ride with someone to go up to Hinton, yeah, and then sleep in the car. But I hit you up and you were like, yeah, man, let's go do some hanging out.
Yeah. So now I have you set up in my basement on a cot, which is prime army living, let me tell you. Mm-hmm. So we were talking earlier about all kinds of things. We've actually been talking nonstop for probably
since I landed, so
6 hours. Yeah. But one of the things that we kept going back to was we were talking about why. Your why. How do you keep keep going when things are looking busted? Comes back to your why. And we dove into it quite a bit, but one of the questions I was going to ask earlier was, when you forget your why, what usually happens for you? For me, I start to get really angry. I start to lose focus on the larger goal because I'm not thinking about the why, and I'll get sucked into little stuff on social media or stuff at home, or the kids are annoying, or like drivers are horrible, whatever. But where do you go when you start to lose focus on that?
So I guess whys. An individual's why obviously changes based upon what they're trying to achieve.
Obviously.
Right? So I guess historically, whenever I was trying to do things, my why would change from time to time based on what I was trying to do. But I don't know if I've ever had a time when I've really focused on something and I hadn't executed against it physically, at least.
Okay.
Like from a competitive standpoint. And having said that, I've never really done anything great. You know what I mean? Like in the terms of like, when I say great, I mean something that contributes to society on a major level. I haven't done anything, right? So through this journey, I'm thinking about what's great. So some people may hear me say I'm chasing greatness, or I want to be I want to achieve greatness or something like that. And it has nothing to do, or at least from my perspective, I'm not trying to say anything about an ego piece to that. What I'm trying to say is I want to do something big. I want to do something that is great for the society. So in my mind, that's chasing greatness. Yeah. But in my mind, that means trying to be great. So now when I think of that, it's super scary. Like, how does one execute against something like that? And especially when what we're talking about is running across Canada and raising a lot of money for veterans and first responders. So how does one, how do I get fired up for something like that? And I don't know, like at the beginning of this sort of journey, or whatever you want to call it, quest, path, odyssey, whatever you want to call it. At the beginning, I didn't have that much knowledge as to different ways to motivate myself, because I only experienced one level of motivation, or I wouldn't even say inspiration, just straight motivation. And I would tap into either anger, or not even anger, but more of, I need to prove myself. I need to prove myself to somebody. Yeah. I need to, subconsciously, that's what it would be, right? And so I don't know if, like, I could ever achieve anything great thinking that way. Yeah. I don't think it's possible. I don't know. For me, it's not. So then what did I have to do with the help of a lot of people around me? Some guidance and some support to figure out how to transcend that way of thinking. I think to chase greatness, you have to have a purpose that's greater than yourself. Yeah. From for me anyway, because like what I'm doing scares me every single day. Like I don't even know if I can execute against it. Like it's a big thing that I have in my head. What my vision is so massive. Like in the evenings, at times I'm alone. Like I'm freaking out, right? Because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna pull this off, but my purpose is keeping me going. So I could quit in that moment and be like, oh man, I can't do that shit. So now the purpose is greater. It's not about me at all. It's about how can I use my skills or my skill set or whatever things that I may have to do the best that I can for the community. So
no, that makes sense.
That's what I'm trying. Like that's how I'm motivated. So like, I don't think anything at this stage in the game will deter me from doing what I need to do, because my purpose is so massive right now. Like I feel it. I feel it. It's hard to articulate. I've never felt this way in my entire life. So it feels right.
You brought up a lot of things there. One of the serious benefits I've always found was like having the drive, the one unquestionable, I will achieve X. For me, it was when, like, I wanted to be a soldier my whole life. So when I became a soldier, there was a moment there where I was like, well, shit, now what? What does it mean to have achieved that goal and then not know where to go from there? And what I did, same thing, I tapped into the purpose. Why did I want to become a soldier? Why was that the choice that I made? And in the moments of I guess questioning, because there were moments that throughout all my training and throughout the time being in the military where I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? And I just had to draw it back to the purpose. I've always felt a drive to help others. I don't know where that comes from, but I've always found the I don't know, that right feeling, like you talked about, right? Like this feels correct in order to do this. And so what I was wondering was, when you hit those moments of falter, when you hit those little points along the way where, you know, your will doesn't take you through the day, right? And you're like, fuck, there's no way I'm going to pull this off.
What do I do in those moments?
Where do you go from there? But like, what helps you rediscover that why? What is it? Do you sit and does it take meditation or like rolling jiu-jitsu or going for a long run? What is it? The physical?
All of the above. Really, it depends on it depends on the day, right?
Yeah.
And what's going on. And last week I was didn't have a good day one day. Just, whatever. And sometimes I'll what happened? It was last week. So last Sunday, we do mental health walks every other Sunday. We have a group of a community that we just go on the trails and go for a walk to help our mental health. And on that same day, I was actually registered to do a 5K race.
Okay.
And I was going to go to this 5K race because it was in a community event in an area that I hadn't really engaged with, and I wanted to do a bit of outreach in that community and to express what we're doing. And I thought it'd be a good, fun opportunity to meet a lot of people. But when I woke up that morning, I felt a way.
Yeah. Way to put it.
I felt a way.
Yeah.
And had this been a year ago or 6 months ago, whatever, I would have went to that race.
Yeah.
I would have run it, and it wouldn't have turned out right. It wouldn't have been ideal, right? So I recognized that. So what did I do after that? I was like, okay, I need to fix myself. Like, I need to correct how I'm feeling, which I think in thinking that wasn't the right thing to do, but I did that nonetheless. So I went to the walk to go, I'm going to go with my people, feel better, whatever. Mm-hmm. So I think my heart was in the right place, but it didn't turn out ideal. And why I'm saying it didn't turn ideal, I don't know how anyone else felt on my interactions, and I didn't get any, negative feedback or anything. But I didn't feel good about how I acted.
Yeah.
And the way I interacted with people, I felt bad about it. And so then, and for the rest of the day, there was a couple other things that kind of went down. I didn't feel good on the interactions I had. It may not have been how they felt at all, but I didn't like it. So I was reflecting on it, and I was like, oh man, I need to do better. I don't want to feel that way, because I don't want to be regretful for feeling a certain way, because that wastes my time and all that, that spiral. Right? Yeah. So anyways, I eventually, what I did to get out of it, I did some, I got home, I relaxed, I did some deep breathing, just to kind of take a load off. I hit a bit of my vape, helps me out a bit, brings me down a bit, and then I ate well that evening. I didn't want to eat anything garbage to ruin my sleep. Yeah. Because I knew if I had a good night's sleep on top of what I already kind of did to manage everything else, it would have taken me into a better day the next day. So, I was aware of how I was feeling throughout the entire day. I was mitigating as much as I possibly could. I could have probably done some things better, which I will do next time. But overall, that day, had it happened a year ago, I handled it better. I still need to do better, though.
We can always do better, right? The real challenge I always found in those moments of, like, you try to use a tool, and it just doesn't work. No. You try another one, and that doesn't work either. You start to get resentful of those tools, because at least I always did.
Well, here's a question for you. Do you feel, and this might just be me sometimes, but do you ever feel like when you're feeling that, when you're trying to employ that tool, and you're like, no, actually, I don't want to feel it for a moment. I want to kind of like absorb it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, I do. I feel that sometimes, and I tell myself, no, don't do that. But I have in the past, and I'm like, and then I indulge it, and I let it go. So knowing that I should stop it in that moment, because I know better. But sometimes it felt good to let it go.
Yeah.
But now I saw that, and I was like, I don't want to let it go. Just let it chill for a minute here. So what I'm trying to say, if I'm being vague at all, but what I'm trying to say is I've been practicing a lot of these skills over the last year or two. I'm not amazing at it. I'm not perfect at it. I see incremental improvements upon behavior from before. So I'm going to have to do these kind of things, for the rest of my life, in the sense of like, how do I manage my anger? How do I manage this? How do I handle, not even anger, man, like irritability, like these types of things, right? Yeah.
It's I was tracking you the whole way. It was making sense to me, at least. The thing that it sparked in me was, I tell this to white belts when we're rolling, and every so often we'll be rolling, and as the white belts are getting better, they start to see things, and they're like, "Oh, there was an arm bar there, but you moved it, you were too fast." And I tell them every time, that's the first step, right? You first learn jiu-jitsu, you have no idea what's happening. There's limbs and arms, and all of a sudden someone's crushing you, and like you're tapping. It's too much. But as you learn the movements, as you get a bit more aware of your own body, you start to go, wait a second, there was something there. And then you get to a point where you can see it and attack it, and you're going to miss.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're going to get to a point where you can see it, you can attack it, you're going to get it, and it's going to be and then eventually you work at it long enough, you'll get to the point where it'll be on, and it'll be solid, technical, great, whatever you want to do. But that's the stage, right, when you throw those tools in, and you're like, okay, no, I'm getting really angry. I need to breathe. No, I can't fucking breathe, and it just starts to bring you up. But you have to realize that that's a win. Going, I need to breathe. That's a win, because it's a recognition of what it is you need to change. You see the move. Now you just need to do it enough times to get to a point.
Get the practice. No, that makes total sense. And now we're speaking on it. Something came to my mind even from today, checking in this morning. Okay. So I'm checking in with Air Canada. And they were nice. I mean, they were busy. I understand the situation. I get what was going on. Now, I made a mistake in understanding when the cutoff was for checking in.
Okay.
That was my fault.
Yeah.
I thought it was a half an hour for domestic flights. So when I got there, I was there 40 minutes before the cutoff. 10 minutes before the cutoff in my head.
Yeah.
So I'm speaking to the gentleman, and he's like, "Oh, your next flight will be at what's it called? Arriving in or departing Vancouver at 10:20 in the morning." And I was like, "Wait a second, my flight's supposed to be at 8:10 in the morning." And anyways, long story short, I was like, "Listen, if I was late, cool, I'm okay with that, but I'm not late. I had 10 minutes to check in, so I don't think I should be going on another flight." And this went back and forth, and then now I'm getting a bit agitated, and you can see that like I'm trying to contain it.
Yeah.
And then he called, and he was trying. So it seemed like he was relatively new, so he called his colleague over, and she came over, and that's where it got a little bit more irritating for me, because she was like, I was trying to, and she would cut me off, and I was trying to explain to her what was happening from my perspective, and she would cut me off, and then she would just turn away from me to talk to her colleague, and was like, "Oh, just call the manager." And I was like, "Hey, listen," like, and then I was like, "Listen." And I was extremely polite, but I said, "Well, that's not actually." I expressed my feelings, how I was feeling in the moment, right? Yeah. I was like, "Listen, I don't appreciate how you're dismissing me right now. Like, I'm asking for something. I'm just asking for clarification. You're just straight up dismissing me. Then not being heard piece, right? So, anyways, then I was like, you know what? Forget it. Let me just get my stuff. Let me just go. That's what. And then the guy who was helping me, he was like, no, don't be mad. I go, listen, I'm not even mad at you, man. I'm just a little frustrated. It is what it is. We're good. I'm not mad at you. I shook his hand. He said, oh, thank you. And I left. Because I had to explain a few things to him. I work in the area and stuff, so I just wanted to let him know a couple things. And then I went back, and then my bag, they didn't even check in my bag. He just said, okay, just carry on. My bag was like a big bag. Yeah. So I was going to walk to the gate with that bag. And then anyways, I walked back and I went to what I thought to be the managers or customer service or whatever it was, and started speaking to them, and I was still kind of agitated, right? And but I flipped it a little bit, and this was a piece of advice Sean Taylor gave me. And he's like, when you're helping other people, you're helping yourself, right? So if you're helping other people, you're not thinking about your own garbage. You're not thinking about my whatever, right? So in that moment, I thought about Sean Taylor. Yeah, hey, Sean Taylor, you're in my head. Yeah. Hey. So
24/7 in there.
So I thought, okay, there was a couple next to me that they were visibly upset with Air Canada. Like, they were right next to me. They're, like in their 50s, going on like a vacation or something, whatever. And they were throwing the bags at the carousel thing to drop it on. And they're like, and they were upset that they were, privileged, first class or whatever it was, right? And they were being kind of rude to those two ladies while they were talking to me. They were like interacting with me, and they're trying to interrupt that. And they were agitated, and I'm agitated.
That's not a great
combo.
No.
And then but they were being rude to them, right? And then I was like, listen, guys, they're just doing their job. Like, I don't think it really makes sense to. And then the lady was like, she said something, and I was like, listen, does it make any sense? And then the husband was like, well, if they knew how to do their job, I go, yeah, perhaps you're right, but your attitude right now is not making you feel better.
Yeah.
And no, it is what it is right now. Let's just move on.
Yeah.
And then I was like kind of chilled out, and then I was interacting with those the ladies, and everything was nice, and they checked in the bags, everything was perfect, and I no complaints, nothing, no issues. And then afterwards, the husband was like, "Hey, thanks for grounding me, brother." I was like, "All right, cool, man." So I don't. I'm just thinking, Sean Taylor's gonna take credit for that.
Yeah.
So whatever.
That's good, man. It's amazing what a good attitude can do.
Yeah, man. I mean, proof is in the pudding, right?
Yeah. Air Canada has never been my favorite airline. Let me put it that way. I think every flight I've ever been on in Air Canada has fucked up somehow royally. I just had a really bad experience again coming back from Ottawa. But at the same time, like, the people working the desk can't do shit. Right? They can call people and tell you, hey, look, this is like,
that's fair.
There's timelines.
Yeah. Well, the one lady initially, that upset me because I was like, there's no need for that. Like, I'm just asking a question. I'm asking for clarity. I'm just asking you, can you show me where it says this time frame? You're just reciting it. Like, I want to know.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, go to the manager. I was like, okay. Well, clearly you're not very good at your job now. In my head, I'm thinking, you can't handle a situation where I'm just asking you a question.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a different
This
thing.
is, I had to learn this a little while ago, and it's hard to swallow. I say a little while ago, it's probably like 9-10 years. No, maybe not that long. Anyway, a number of years ago, my wife Amber would, every so often, I'd make a statement like, I was walking down the street, and then I saw this lady just like seemed like literally look at me and then just go across the street and then keep going. And I just thought to myself, like, at the time, I was always like, what the hell? Like, I'm a perfectly nice human being. I don't know what everyone's saying. And my wife had to, like, stop me multiple times and go, you're huge.
Yeah. No, I get it.
And I like, I'm not a big guy. I mean, I'm kind of a big guy, but I'm tall and all this stuff, right? But I had never seen myself like that. And to some people, just the sheer interaction with us, someone that is large or wide or whatever, right? They're just like, and all of a sudden the situation is too much for them.
That's true.
Which is, I mean, it's what it is, right? But
yeah, I mean, for us to understand that is kind of difficult, but I see what you're saying, right? Like, I mean, if people haven't had any interactions with anyone, like, not even confrontation, like, if you're not even playing sports, if you're not even, like, martial or whatever, like, you're not going to have any concept of anything. So I can see how a person could be intimidated by another individual just by mere look of them.
Mm-hmm.
Which is sad. But.
Well, it is, but I mean, I have to kind of do this every once in a while because, when you're surrounded by people that are, I don't know, physically and like a higher physical level, I guess, than the average citizen. Like, you know what I mean?
They look the part.
I guess.
Like, I mean, like athletic builds.
When you're surrounded, especially like there's lots of different sizes in the military, right? There's lots of different sizes in policing. There's lots of different sizing, but I don't know how to put this, other than the fact that like usually you're in better shape, right? And when you're surrounded by people like that, you forget that there are lots of people out there that aren't in great shape.
Yeah.
That are, if you're surrounded by really big people all the time, and like my brother so my brother is 6'8", right? Like, and he went to Korea, South Korea, to teach English and learn Taekwondo as well.
Awesome.
He's got a 3rd degree black belt in Taekwondo. Nice. Ridiculously fast, but he went there, and he was like, people would stop and ask to get pictures with him.
I believe it,
right? Because it's just holy shit, look at the size of him.
Yeah, I get it. I can see that. I mean, that is kind of cool. I mean, he's that tall, and everyone else is kind of like, what's going on here?
And I think back when I was in high school, I'd walk through the halls, right, and in between classes when you have the herd of children all walking around, right, and I was a good head above everyone. So every time we went out, I would just see this like sea of heads, and I'd be just kind of like above it.
Elevated positions, usually pretty good.
Yeah, usually pretty good. I got hit. There was this little chick in one of the grades. She hit me in the hip with her shoulder. Like, it was just a weird.
It was a bony shoulder.
It almost took me down, but that's besides the point.
Please hold as the host requires a donut break.
But it's true. Like, the more difficult things we do, the easier it gets, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I'm running 50K this weekend. I don't give a fuck. It's like, whatever. Honestly, I'm not really worried at all.
Do you think you would have ever said about that about yourself? Like,
no.
Like, whatever, 50K. Sure.
No, honestly, it's fucking weird, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not worried at all. Like, I'm not stressed at all. I'm not freaking out at all. I'm not like, oh my God, what's going to happen this weekend? Or I'm not like, oh, this is going to suck. I'm just like, okay, whatever.
We were talking about this earlier, and it's the fact that you have to, in order to do big things, you have to have a level of complacency, but still be able to focus on things sequentially in a pattern, right? You have to be able to stare at a piece of ground, focus on something, and go, okay, whoa, and then step out of it again. And
I think that's I was reading a chapter or a couple lines in Building the Elite. Mm-hmm. Awesome book. I've been trying, like, just been kind of going through it every now and then, just whenever I get time. And they were talking about distress versus eustress, and the differences in how they apply and how you function through them, and how, you know, the benefits of one or the other, and how to develop it, and how to develop through it. And it's exactly what we're talking about right now. It's the stress inoculation, keep doing things over and over again, do hard things repeatedly, that's what it is. Like
Yeah.
it's broken down into science. You have a lot of mainstream people that say it a certain way, but at the end of the day, you just got to keep doing things over and over again. Like anything that you do, at least from my experience, and from the experience of you, I would suspect, and a lot of other people that we know, they've gotten good at things by doing them over and over and over and over and over till over. Like, and they haven't stopped doing them.
Yeah.
So, like, for me, I'm new to some of this game in terms of the things that I'm doing. So, I'm just employing some of these tactics now. Hopefully, over a period of time, they'll take a lot of traction, and I mean, they have. What am I kidding? Like, I'm doing fairly well compared to where I was a year ago, or 2 years ago, or 5 years ago, whatever, right? Mentally, and then also not just mentally, as in knowing who I am better now.
Yeah.
Like really understanding who I am better.
Yeah.
And then if I understand myself better, then I think I'm able to demand more of myself. Because if I know myself well enough, I should know what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if I know what I'm capable of, then I should be able, I should push my body in every capacity to get there. So that's kind of my thought process of what I've been doing. And I just thought of that just now.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And as you were talking about it, it kind of clicked in my head was, if you do anything that involves your life as a consequence, one of the things you get told very early is trust your equipment. Trust your equipment. You cannot do this correctly if you do not trust your equipment, like rappelling, right? If I when in the military, you got to tie your own Swiss seat, right? You got to make sure that it's tied off, and then someone comes over and checks it, sure, but you still tie that, and you still have to hook it up on a carabiner.
One man,
you still
one
have
kid.
to go over, right?
Yeah.
And it comes back to, do you trust your equipment? But you're the one that tied it. Sure, someone checked, but you're the one that tied it. So do you trust yourself to throw yourself over a cliff based on this carabiner and your tying job?
Well, I mean, that's the case with that, because you're taking responsibility yourself and the thing that you're putting together, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with me and with canine handler, right? Just trust the dog.
Yeah.
Right? So if I'm not trusting the dog, what did I not do? Am I not training? The training not going well? Am I not identifying the behavior well enough? Am I not, like, all these different things that are associated to it? It is that.
When we're sweeping a metal detector and we're in front of an entire platoon or company or whatever, walking through a path that we know has IEDs in it, I cannot not trust my kit. Right there.
Not in that moment.
Not in that moment, because I'm so hyper focused on it. But I know it works. I'm the one that
How do you
grounded
know?
it. Well, I grounded it.
Yeah.
I changed the batteries.
Yeah.
It was all back to, I'm trusting myself that this works. And then I'm going to go do it, because, and one of my sergeants told me this many years ago, was that you can't expect anyone else to trust you unless you're sure of the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And what he was talking about was, like, if an infantry guy comes over and it's like, is that area clear? And you're like, well, yeah, sure. That guy's not going to trust me. He's never going to ask me that question again.
Well, I'd law enforcement is similar in that regard. So if you're going to arrest somebody,
Yeah.
or if you're going to put hands on, whatever the case may be, if you're second guessing the legislation that your authority falls under, bad news, right?
Yeah.
So if you understand the legislation and what authorities you have, that gives you confidence.
Yeah.
To execute against it, and no matter what that individual is going to say, this is the rules. I can do this.
Yeah.
So I think you're exactly right.
Yeah. There's a line in the engineers when it comes to mine clearing, and it's, if there's doubt, there is no doubt. Meaning that if you even suspect, like just a hint, go, this might be a minefield, It is.
Gotcha.
And you have to go off that assumption. Because
Safety first.
what are you willing to risk?
Mm.
Right? And there's some pretty scary mines out there that we had the Americans have it. It's a small box. It's freaking crazy. It's actually helicopter distributed.
Oh, damn.
So they can just fly over and like off the sides. It arms by tumbling. So as it's falling, it's arming, and when it hits the impact and stops moving, it sends out little spider wires in 8 directions.
Oh, it sounds very pleasant.
It's crazy. It's a huge anti-personnel mine, and it's a good size, if I recall correctly. Anyway, I remember, I don't know why this came into my head, but I remember the procedure for it was if there is even an inkling that these are in the area, you cordon off 1 kilometer and you don't go in there. That's it.
That's a lot.
All right, that's it. Like,
Okay.
okay, gone, right? But that's talking about combat operations, right? Like, you just don't go in this box and you go around it, right? But, yeah, you just made me think of that when I was talking about
the mines
thing. But
yeah, with the tools, right?
The tool,
and then I mean, there's a lot there's a lot of similarities everywhere, right? And actually, simulators are going to be you find simulators in everything.
it transcends the job. It transcends the mentality. I mean, these are basic principles of life that we're all just trying to kind of discovering in new ways. Because, like, I mean, we were talking earlier, right? I was told things. I remember being told things like principles of leadership and how to do certain things, how to progress in my career. And these are the things that you should be looking at, blah, blah. And at the time, I just was like, fuck you, know. Right? I wasn't ready to hear those things. And I had to go through multiple experiences and multiple failures before I go, oh, wait, shit, that guy had a point. Or I have to hear it said in a different way to attach it to some memory of mine that goes, right. I get it now.
No, I hear you. I think probably, I mean, for me, I've heard the same thing from 100 different people, but the one person might say it, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So then what is that? That's probably just the respecting the person that's saying it more than anyone else who's saying it.
Could be, yeah.
So, like, it's probably, in my case, that's that, because my dad might say one thing, my friend over here might say one thing, my cousin over here might say one thing, you might say this over here. All of you are saying the same thing, but a girl down the street says it. I'm like, oh, really? Fuck yeah, let's go. That's a good idea. Whatever. Yeah. Like, whatever it is. As long as you get it.
Yeah.
As long as the information is received, I don't think it really matters who gives it. So all of us are saying similar things. Perhaps our accents may be different, the dialect may be different, whatever you want to say, but it doesn't matter. As long as we're all saying essentially the same thing, we're all on the same team.
Yeah. We
just try to figure out better ways to say those things for each, as we are as individuals.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to figure out the best way I can say things for myself, and then I'm trying to figure out better ways for me to function through society on a daily basis. And I'm thinking about better ways I can be a better father for my daughter. So I'm just thinking of those things, and I think through that, if I'm able to do those things better, I think in time everything else will fall into place. So if I try to figure out, be more attentive father for my daughter, and then as in terms of community service, like be really executing against what I feel I can contribute to.
Mm-hmm.
So and then everything else is just gravy on top of that, really, from my perspective.
Yeah, you made me think about. I don't know why I keep going back to time in a minefield when we're talking about this, but this is when you're doing a scan, you focus on the area around your feet. That's it, and you make absolutely sure that there is nothing in that circle. You're happy with that, and then you make it a little bit bigger. and then you make it a little bit bigger. And again, the concept is that is cleared area, that you've done that. And if you take that, like you just said, put it in towards your life, and you work on, I need to work on me. Okay, I'm okay. Now I need to work on. Now I need to work on.
Mm-hmm.
Now I need to work on, and just keep building from there.
But I don't think it's an ever I'm done.
Oh,
Working
no,
on
for
me,
sure.
or I'm working on this, or I'm working on this. We're working on all of those things every single day for the rest of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it sounds daunting, I suppose, if I were to say it like that. We've got to work on every single thing that we need to fucking work on
everything
forever. So yeah, that sounds shitty, right? But it's not, right? Because if we're living a more meaningful life, all right, it sounds like a lot to me. For me, when I hear that, I'm like, holy fuck. I gotta, like, because I've worked really hard for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta do this for another 40.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm thinking, right? So I don't want to put that on anyone else. That's me. So it's daunting. Number one. Number two, it's daunting, and it's like that's. It sounds daunting,
yeah,
and it appears daunting. But if you frame it in a way that you're living a more meaningful life, a more purposeful life, a more fun life, where you're deriving a lot of satisfaction out of life,
mm-hmm.
and you're getting a lot of enrichment out of life, by doing those things that are making you a better person on every single level, then it's not daunting. Then it's fun. Then you're actually improving yourself every single day on every metric that you want to improve on. And you're just going about it like I don't know, like a fucking whatever.
What I guess what I was trying to get at, and you're correct, is that the iterations, like you said, they never stop.
Yeah.
And it's just the focus of what is happening at this moment, right? If you stop and you go, okay, and you run the process, right? Am I okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Have I helped those people around me? Okay, yeah, I think so. I can go do. Hey, cool. This run looks good. That's cool. It's near me. Oh, it's a community I haven't been in. So let's do it, right? Let's rock and roll.
Yeah.
And then you wake up tomorrow and go, am I okay? Fuck no. Okay, this is where I'm working today, right?
Yeah.
So you just keep focusing on those little things. And sometimes for me, like the iterations sometimes they're minutes apart, sometimes they're hours apart, sometimes they're days apart. There's been times where, like, when I hit a depressive episode and my energy levels just tank. I'm a pretty active dude, but I'll barely be able to get out of bed.
Mm.
Right? And if it wasn't for the fact that I have to drive myself out of bed, I wouldn't get out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a struggle just to make it through the things that I need to do. And that's cool. I'm right here. Look after yourself. Take the time. I always say grace, not slack. I'm in a shit mood. Okay.
So how do you define them then? Grace and slack. What do you mean?
Okay. So grace, the whole concept is give yourself the grace to fail and make mistakes, but not the slack to quit.
Mm.
Because that's where that slack comes in of just like, okay, well, this is the defining moment I had was when I stopped and I thought about why blue belts quit, or why that's such a trope,
mm-hmm.
right? And I realized that it's that iteration of having to go back to square one and go, what am I doing wrong here? And you give yourself the grace, or you get hurt, or you shit comes up, you got to take a trip, you're going to miss a week of training or whatever. And then you think about it on the way back and you're like, I missed a whole week and my back is still kind of, I don't really want to. And then it slowly it becomes farther and farther away.
You were just thinking about,
right?
Well, what you just Okay, I don't want to. You keep bringing up the minefield. I keep bringing up Sean Taylor. The reason why, I'll tell you why. What you just mentioned,
24/7,
yeah.
right there,
No,
Sean.
because you're talking about a video. I'm talking about. So what you were just mentioning something. What was this? You just said.
Yeah, see, now I forgot. Gotta make it difficult. Make me remember my own words.
Okay, no. So you're talking about like, your blue belt, people quitting, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking right away, that's reminded me of a video that Sean posted, I don't know, maybe a few days ago or whatever it was, or maybe even longer, I can't remember. Something about like people nowadays don't want to put in the work and like immediate gratification and want to see the results now. So when you're talking about the blue belt thing, you're not going to be good for 10 years. So, your blue belt, like getting to the blue belt and then people quitting because they're not getting something fast enough, not getting progression fast enough. So I think what it was kind of like reminded me of that video. He was mentioning something about like, well, people just want a quick fix, or they don't understand that you need to really keep working to get good at anything. Like, so the idea that if you want to be good at it, I mean, it sounds so silly, I'm just repeating it. If you want to be good at anything, you got to take some time. So who cares if you're blue belt or purple belt or whatever it is? It's going to take time to get good at whatever. Yeah. So like, I'm not like, if we were to put belts onto running or into bodybuilding, I mean, it's belts or whatever. It gives a shit.
No, Sean says that tying on a new white belt and a new skill, right? That's that same concept of you're going to suck for a while.
Yeah.
And then you're going to get to a point where you're like, okay, I think I have a handle on this, but then you look at that next stage up. Or you look at that.
There's a recent video, and more an indictment on society as a whole, where everyone is seeking out immediate gratification rather than putting in the work. I'm not sure if I agree with in silence, but depending on the scenario and what's required to execute against that mission. But if you're working hard, there's nothing wrong. Like when you actually, it's not nothing wrong with. That's not the right way to say it. It's absolutely what you need to do. It's not like nothing's wrong with it. It's absolutely what you have to do. Yeah. Like it's not a choice. So if anyone who's not achieving anything that they're not wanting to achieve, it's their fault, because in the sense of like there's probably other things going on, but there are things that you can do to move yourself in a direction that should be able to help you with some momentum moving in that, like in a positive direction. Like I'm not a fucking know everything. I don't. I barely know how to put my shoes on. But I mean, I've come out of a bit of a ditch over the last couple of years, and I'm not anywhere near where I would love to be, but I'm definitely trending in the direction. So, I think my example for some people could be beneficial or at least somewhat helpful. Not that I was extremely in the dumps or either way, but we all have our spots, right? But I think I was feeling such that, there are things that people could take away that could maybe help them. So, a
tool for their toolbox, perhaps. Even.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's exactly why I think a lot of us are doing these things. Yeah. Look, man, I don't like sharing about a lot of the stuff about me. Podcast came up. Nathan Kapler's 1033 podcast was just on his 2-part. It was about 2.5 hours, and that one I was sharing a bit more kind of things, and that was particularly at a time where I wasn't doing so hot either. Right? It was in April, and I was a lot of things were really not good for me, but I still did it. And I still was being authentic to who I was at that moment. And, reflecting back on it, am I happy with how I sounded? No. That's my own internal thing that I feel I should have sounded better. I should have not. I just didn't want to. For some people, did you hear it?
I haven't yet.
Yeah, if you hear, like, some parts are kind of like, it sounds kind of like scary,
Okay.
like angry and pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
And those who understand will recognize those pieces. And but I think I was talking to Nathan, and I don't know. I think maybe it's good too. I don't know. I did it, and I was stressing over it. Like, I was thinking about it, and I lost a little bit of sleep over it because I was like, oh man, worried about what people might say about me, or why is he so angry? Why is he so aggressive? Why is he so this, that, and the other? It's just I didn't tell you what happened. I was emptied out my basement suite that very moment, and I had nothing in my place, and I was sitting on the floor doing a podcast for 2 hours. What I was doing.
That doesn't make for the greatest.
So I wasn't in the hottest frame of mind. I just in the place that I was able to see my daughter frequently, and there's a lot of things were changing in the moment. I was moving into a new place. It was emptied out, and it was it was the house that I bought with my ex-wife. So it was it was a day.
Yeah.
So and now in hindsight, whatever. That's who I was that day, and I was in a mood, and that was the podcast.
Yeah.
And hopefully, people it resonates with people from that perspective. But the point is this, though. I don't feel super awesome being in front of people doing this. That was the point.
I sure don't either, and yet somehow I keep doing these things. Again, a couple great points there. Your ability to talk about this stuff is the next iteration. And I think we don't think about this often enough, is that think about the previous generation of not just veterans, but the previous generation of people in general. You think about the baby boomers who come from...
Yeah. Well, my parents.
Yeah, my parents, like what they have seen and done in their lives, right? Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
What I have seen and done in my life, they're not the same things, obviously. They're not going to be viewed for the same things. But the whole goal, my wife and I talked about this when we were having kids too, was like the goal of any generation should be to take that next generation and put them a little bit higher up on...
If they can.
If they can.
Yeah.
Just at best, try to get them up there. And it's our belief that's what should happen. And I think that generationally, things are getting better. Yeah, we still all have our problems. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. But even we don't think we rarely think about the fact that all of our struggles and all of the challenges that we have right now or have gone through were they don't really compare.
They're different, right?
You know what I mean?
And so I think I understand what you're saying. I can't even really speak for my parents, but I can speak to what they've told me about their experiences. And they're immigrants, right? And so I suspect when my mom, she moved to England when she was 11, and my dad moved to England when he was 19 to go to university, or at least he was going to try to figure out how to get to university. But at that time, that was 60 years ago in England.
Yeah.
Or even close to 70 for my mom, right? 60, 70 years, whatever it is. So not the best place if you were a visible minority, especially if you're Indian.
Yeah.
So, so they probably experienced lots of different things from that perspective, but also, an immigrant in a foreign country, not able to speak the language. And so everyone has things.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then also you have your generational traumas and whatever that might mean for some people. So I could see how that can affect a lot of people.
Thank you for getting me back to this, because I found my point.
There you go.
was the fact that our parents' generation, nobody talked about this. This wasn't even on the fucking menu at this point.
But how many of them drank every day?
Exactly. Absolutely. But that was the coping mechanism, right? And you think back, and you go back, and you go back, and you go back.
Yeah.
And to the point where it used to be about community. And if one person was messed up, the community was a part of it. And they were a part of the community, and everyone was trying to lift each other up. And I think what we've kind of come back to is that community building, that the feeling that you're able to come to my basement, hang out in front of a camera, and talk about our feelings as two men from.
Well, okay, here's the
you know
thing.
what I mean?
Yeah, fair. I'd say, okay, look, especially men our age.
Yeah.
Because I suspect if you have men that are, let's say, 25 years old, this is not a big deal.
Yeah.
But when you start in your 40s, whatever, and now we're like, so yeah, this is a newer thing.
Yeah.
This is a new thing. And I think we're, I don't know if we're leading the charge or not, but
I believe
we're doing something.
I believe we're at the point that I was talking about earlier with when I tell white belts where you can see the move. You now recognize, oh, fuck, that was fucked up. I should probably not do that anymore.
Yeah.
As a generational thing, as a community,
Gotcha.
What we're doing is we're at that point where we're like, oh, dang. Okay, now I know what to do. And like my boys, I'm giving them innumerable tools to use that I never got as a kid.
So I think from a family perspective, yeah, I think for sure that's definitely happening. In the schools, sure, I believe that's happening because people are talking about mental health quite a bit in the schools, and I suspect they're getting a lot of support and whatnot. And there's a lot of, I think even in the private sector, companies are, at least some companies that want to keep their employees, they are actually doing a lot of things for their mental health and speaking on these things, and it's on the table. Now, I can only speak for the federal government because that's where I've worked for many years. They are also on the same page as to talking about it. But in reality of executing against what they're talking about, you and I can both agree upon that they're not aligned.
They're lacking in some very major ways.
Yeah. So I can only speak to my experiences. And yeah, people offer a lot of assistance through the system that is there. And managers will offer that assistance as a obligation rather than, hey man, everything all right? So it's a different thing altogether. Yeah. And they just mark the checkbox. I mean, yeah, you do have your people that are doing more, but the system itself is more of a checkbox mark so that they can say that they did a thing, so that they can go on to the next thing and the next thing. So from that perspective, I'm not hopeful. And I'm in a spot right now where I don't suspect I'll be any more hopeful anytime soon.
I hear what you're saying. I really do. But I think what I see in the community right now is the beginnings of a change. And if you think about like the late 50s, the early 60s, right? The hippies aren't even there, right? That's later on down the road where at the beginning, people were just saying like, things need to change, right? And then social groups started to pop up, and human rights things started to pop up, and like it started as a bunch of solid, dedicated people that wanted change, and it takes a build, right?
Okay, so let me correct what I said. It won't happen in my lifetime.
Oh, really? I think it might.
I don't know, man. Like, I'm hopeful. Like, I think for people, yeah. People will get there. Organizations, federal organizations, I don't know if they can.
I think they can. The organizations are made up of the people, right? And this is where if it's gonna change anywhere, it's gonna come from the bottom. Because at no point is the people on top gonna go, you know what? The system that brought me here is wrong, and we need to fix it entirely.
Then it won't happen within the system. It'll have to happen outside of the system, which in turn I doubt will happen. That's just my opinion. And I've been wrong 1,000 billion trillion times, so I'm probably wrong here. But my opinion is that it's too difficult to change an organization if they're already aligned in that direction because other people want to benefit off of the other people. So, for example, if an individual is right here and they're really high up, they will do those tick boxes and articulate certain things so they can get to the next level, not really giving two shits about anything else that happens down here.
That's very true. Yeah.
So, having said that, if the bottom wants to change up top, it's not going to happen within. It's just not. From my experience, what I've seen, I can't see it changing from what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is it what? Yeah, I hope so. I don't know. I don't know, man. But here's the thing: I'm at a spot now where I'm not even wasting my energy anymore. Zero fucks if it changes. What can I change? Mm-hmm. I can get some shoes on. I can train my ass off. I can run across this country and I can raise a ton of money. That's what I can do. Worrying about changing a government or changing an organization or changing anything else, I can't affect that. Yeah. What I can do is do what I can do. And whatever happens out of that, let that happen. Okay. I don't know what that will happen, but that's my perspective.
I believe that we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's not that you want to change a system. I don't think that we obviously all want change, right? Like, absolutely. What's there is not working. Shit needs to be sorted out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that we would go into it going, hey, we need to change how D&D does shit. Like, that's not what I'm getting at. What I mean is that the community is changing people's view of the situation. So at some point in any job, people are going to get timed out, right? You're going to hit retirement. You're going to whatever, right? And we see it in the communities too. The dinosaurs, right? They retire. And the new guys kind of change stuff, and it's a really
government.
It's a slow burn, right? But where we are today is the actions of 20, 30 years ago, right? The issues that we're dealing with right now is because the people that are in power right now started 20, 30 years ago.
And they're still here.
Right? They're still here, absolutely.
So
they took over from
the liberal government. Really, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, and I probably will be, the liberal government decimated the military.
Oh, yeah.
Decimated. Yeah. They decimated law enforcement at a federal level. Mm-hmm. They did all of that. And I'm not shitting on anyone. That's a fact. They've removed a lot of funding.
Absolutely.
The conservatives did too, but they also added a shit ton of money to the ministry that services a lot of law enforcement. So they actually dumped in a ton of money at 9/11. Mm-hmm. So it made a lot of difference. The liberal government's what really dismantled a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And then when the new liberal government came in, they dismantled a few more things across the board from law enforcement and the military. Mm-hmm. So, and we live in a liberal, left-leaning country. I don't see it changing. We're in a country that generally thinks far left of center.
Indeed.
Generally.
Well, yeah, when you look at the true political
when you look at the entire country.
We're pretty far left anyway.
So, now, individuals, I suspect, like you or me or whom, I don't even think we're far right or anything. I just think we're just general type of individuals. However, Canada's far left. So, for anything to really drastically change in the direction that we would be hopeful for, I just don't see it. But I've been wrong a billion times, so I'm sure I'm wrong again. But that's just what I see. That's what I see.
Yeah, I always like to think that if you want to shift something, if you want to change something or be a part of something larger, you need a community. It's a community thing.
But how do you get the community involved in anything?
That you have to exhibit what you espouse. You have to walk the talk. You can't just yell.
But to galvanize a group is very difficult.
This is leadership, right? This is what it comes back to. And leadership comes in many forms. It comes running across Canada. comes in raising money. It comes in organizing groups like the Walk for Veterans or the Wreck to Remembrance or the friggin' Walk for the Wounded or whatever. Like all those things.
And then now we're talking, right? So now we have these different organizations or entities helping to build or support people that need the help, right? How much of those organizations engage with, I don't know, this is an actual general question, really infiltrate civilian life to the extent that really manifests the idea of what we're trying to do, like Walk for the Wounded, all these different elements. Is there a lot of like outreach to get that piece, like to really amplify it? Is that happening?
I can only speak for the Walk for Veterans because I am one of the founders and one of the the co-national organizers and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But that's the whole point of the Walk for Veterans, is to get people together and walking shoulder to shoulder. Because, I mean, you and I were talking about this earlier, was the fact that most Canadians, their interactions with veterans that they can see as veterans is during Remembrance Day, where we all have our berets on, we have our medals on, we're in uniform, or we're in suits, or like, and we're not in the mood to talk to people, right? So we're sitting there remembering those people that have come before us in solemnity. Some people want to talk, some people don't like it, but on the vast majority, we don't want to engage people. We want to hang out with our buddies. But that's like, if that's the only time your country sees veterans as people, they have no idea.
So how else do we do it then? What are other ways to get more into the mainstream?
This is where I think the Walk for Veterans is helping, because we have actual veterans, we have first responders, we have public servants, we have regular people seeing each other as people. Like that dude, oh, that guy lives down the street from me. Oh, I didn't know he wearing one of those medals on his chest. Oh my god. And the other problem is like, usually in the History Canada things you see on TV, you know, they talk about veterans from World War II and they talk about veterans from Korea. Some people didn't even know we were in Afghanistan. They thought we were in Iraq at one point when I was in Afghanistan. Like, the knowledge wasn't there because we don't have those systems. So this goes back to my earlier point, was the fact that people have recognized that those systems don't exist. The government is not providing a system for people to be involved with their veterans. Therefore, you take a group of people that are dedicated and you change it. You create the thing. You start an idea and say, I'm going to run across Canada and raise a bunch of money and grab awareness. And like, you have to latch onto those things. Mm-hmm. And then with that community, which is what I'm seeing happening, that community is building on itself. Because you're here in my basement, right? Mm-hmm. I was out in Toronto for a layover and Corey Hack came out and just like, let's go for dinner, dude. And we went for dinner. You're talking with Sean Taylor. We are using the tool that no previous generation has had, and that is this. A network.
Look, hey man, I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I prefaced it. What do I know? I'm just a comedian.
I'm getting heated. I'm getting heated.
I'm not a comedian, that's a joke. No, I think you're right. I think okay, so I'm gonna quote a friend of mine, Sach, too.
Sure.
He calls me neurotic. So like I look at the not the negative, but okay, like worst case scenario things. I think that way rather than
I do too.
Rather than like I always look at the opposite. Mm-hmm. Like even when you're talking, I'm thinking of ways. Not purposefully, but like I'm just thinking about no, that doesn't make. I'm thinking of trying to find out that doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. So that's part of it. Maybe I'm like, no, I don't see it happening. I don't know.
I get it though. Like I do the same thing. It's called catastrophizing for anybody that wants to look up the actual psychological terminology of it. Because I've talked to a psychologist about it. That's what it's called. But yeah, when you see the worst case scenarios, everything's going to be a bad scenario. Like that's a shitty. You never know what's going to happen. Everything's bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I did this all the time. I'd be driving along the road and I'd be like, I would see a piece of garbage, whatever, right? First thing in my head was like, oh shit, that's an ID. Not even like, not a flashback, not anything, just it clicked in my head like, oh shit, what is that? And over time I had to go, garbage. You have to accept the fact that, oh, okay, yeah.
When you saw that, were you scared? Or was it okay, just kept going?
I like it. I
responded.
There was a response to it for sure. You know, the Anyway, but I was like, oh shit, that was the initial response. Like when I first got home, and after working with my doctor and everything, she was like, the response is natural. There's nothing wrong with going, oh fuck, like this could be bad, because it absolutely could be. But you have to work on what is the likelihood. And you have to accept it. Oh, that could be an IED. Okay, yeah, it could be. What's the likelihood of someone putting an IED on the side of the Henday in Edmonton? Pretty low.
Well, rationally, you know it, right?
Yeah.
So you have to change the emotional response.
Exactly. And so over time, I've been able to, going back to my iteration ideas, like I would go, oh shit, right, wait, no, okay, yeah. It could be, but it's not. And then it went to, it could be, but it's probably just garbage, or you know, it could be that it could be still there. You still got to check it off. Like, am I okay, right? But
no, for sure, man.
But that helped me a lot, because when I would do that, and man, it made interactions really hard with people, and I would get really frustrated with people because I would just start like, but everything could go wrong. Be like, well, yeah, it could.
Everything can go wrong.
Yeah.
Then I guess if you say let everything go wrong, then what happens?
Okay.
Yeah, because I guess, and I'm just experimenting in my head here for a sec. Like, I guess maybe that's part of the reason why. Like, I'm trying to think about my experiences over the last few runs I've had this year, and I'm trying to remember how I felt before each of them, and each of them I felt different than this one, 1,000% different. Right now, I feel like I don't know if this is good, but I feel like I'm not doing anything this weekend. That's what I feel like. So like, we'll see how that plays out, because that'll be interesting to see. The other two, I was like, you know, the first one I was like, oh, I got this shit, and I got my ass handed to me. Yeah. Boom. The second one, I was like, I don't know, man. I just want to fucking just do something, and I did okay, but I didn't get to the goal of 100. This one, I'm not even. So after that last one where I ran 82 kilometers but didn't get to the 100, I had a chat with Sean again, and chat with him, and discussion back and forth, and really what I was suggesting to him was like, look, man, my main run, all these runs are really chaining exercises to really understand how I feel under these different scenarios and whatever. The real run is where I'm not going to let anything stop me from executing against the entire thing, and my leg has to come off or I have to fucking die before I'm not like really doing this. Is the November 6th one. It's the remembrance one, my run to remember. That's the 100K one. That's the one I'm training for this year. Whereas I want to kill my time from last year. My time from last year was 14 minutes, 58 seconds. Oh, sorry, 14 hours, 58 seconds. 14 minutes.
Fucking the flash over here.
Yeah, right?
14 minutes.
No, 14 hours, 58 minutes. And so I'd like to do that faster this year. And easier. So I'd like it to feel easier. So that's really, these ones are just testing this thing out, testing that thing out, try this thing out, try that. So the focus very specific. This one's more of like a, but it's not even really, because I'm with another partner. So like even if I'm ripping or he's ripping and he's faster than me, he's got to stick with me.
Yeah.
He can't leave. So it's a partner thing too, right? So it's a different mentality. I'll probably learn from this person because I've never done these types of runs before. To be more of like a hike and in the mountain and this and the other. So this is more, learn. Try something different. I haven't done this before. I didn't have hiking poles, so I bought some. So now I got hiking poles. I didn't know they were like $200 for good ones.
Yeah.
I figured if I'm going to do this now, I might as well have some good ones, right?
Yeah.
And then, so I just kitted up a little bit. And then the next one's July 23rd. We've been doing this for a while, bro. I need to get to bed. We got to get some running going on.
No worries.
Or
Appreciate it.
Start unwinding.
Yeah, let's get it.
That concludes this episode of The Toolbox. I really appreciate y'all listening. It has been my pleasure bringing you this awesome guest. If you like what you heard, please like, share, subscribe, and do all that awesome stuff. And I hope you can use some of the information that was offered. To all those putting on the line every day, first responders, military, veterans, civil servants, you guys are keeping us safe and keeping the country running. I really appreciate y'all. Hope to see you next time. Till then, stay open, stay humble, and stay focused. Shimo.